Do a quick intro, and I know that we're still waiting on the lovely Allison Alexander, but while we're waiting for Allison, who's got a lot to share with us on MetaCampus and onboarding and Web3 inclusion, and want to touch on all of that. But in the interim, Austin was just laying out that we really should be addressing at least a little bit until the moment Allison gets here about SBV. And we were just marveling, and I'll let you grab the mic from here. We were just marveling at, no matter what you think about what this does for inflation or what this says for government overreach or oversight, how impressive it was that the Fed responded as quickly as they did. And here's Allison in the waiting room, so I'm going to bring her on real quick. Boom. Hello, Allison. Are you muted?
I am muted. Hello there.
Welcome.
It's using my wrong camera, but that's okay. I just got to figure that out for a moment.
Yeah, no worries. We can help you troubleshoot. If you hit the little gear icon, you can choose your camera.
Oh, can I change my camera? Oh,
yeah, the gear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
So, Jared, did you want to do a quick update or intro to Allison for the public who's like, hey, who's this other?
God, I'm the public here, and I couldn't even get in. Excellent. Don't talk to me about IT.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give an intro to Allison, and then Allison can tell us about tech, about onboarding people to tech.
It's cutting edge technology. Yeah.
Exactly, the future. No, Allison, Restream can play games. It's played games with me a lot. Even on the last episode of the second to last episode, I didn't have sound for the first 3 minutes, so glitches do happen.
Hilarious.
Glitches do happen with tech, and only after rewatching it did I see this entire thing where Jay was like, "We should talk about him. He can't hear us," and then they were just giggling. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there. Allison, it is great to have you on.
Yes,
you're going to talk to us about MetaCampus. I actually was confused. I have to say, before we went live, I was thinking about a different MetaCampus. You have been following Not Crypto Bros for quite some time, so it's really great to have you on. And you went offline. I'm going to keep singing your praises as you come back. This is so great. I can't wait to pass the baton. So, Allison, if you want to take a moment and just, you can, I guess, introduce yourself and tell us where you're calling from, and then actually maybe start to talk about all that cool art that's behind you. So,
yeah, man.
Firstly, I'm not touching anything again. Secondly, whenever I go anywhere on a live, my daughter calls me and she doesn't call ever, and then she suddenly calls. So I thought I would switch off my phone, but I forgot my computer was toggled to my phone today. Hence why I went offline. So phone is off and I'm retoggled to the landline IT. So I am here. So sorry about that. Always a reason for why IT misfunction. Generally the user is the issue. So hello guys. So lovely to meet you all.
You as well. We got Brian saying hello. Good to see you, Allison. And
hello,
then
Brian.
I don't know Sarah. Is Sarah in your? She's
Sarah's
in your network.
Sarah's a MetaCampus colleague, I believe.
There we go. So real quick, at the highest level, Allison, I'm super curious. First off, I want to hear about MetaCampus. You are big about inclusion and underrepresented groups, so we're going to touch on that. But can you give any of the viewers like the highest level kind of pitch or one-liner of what is MetaCampus?
Yep, MetaCampus is a platform that helps people who know nothing about the new internet, Web3, go from Web2 world into Web3 and secure their professional life in that new future. And not just understand the knowledge, but understand the mindset shift that needs to take place. So that's what we do. And we did it all because we think absolutely the new world is going to enable us to bring much more equity to the world. Well, that's why I did it. And that's why Pera did it. That's why we do it, because we think it really is going to help us rebalance. Maybe not this today, maybe not next year, but literally in 10 years, the developing worlds are leapfrogging lots of us and are going to change the economics of the world. So that's why we did it.
That's now, are you a founder or just an
Yes.
early?
Yeah,
Okay.
So Pera, there's three of us, Pera, Edu, and I. Pera is in Spain, Edu is in Tasmania, and I am in the UK. But Pera and Edu actually grew up on the same street, so that's not fair. So they grew up on the same street in Spain, and I came into the threesome because Pera and I met when we made virtual reality films. I'm going to say beautiful films to help people understand how to walk in the footsteps of children who have been abused by adults, and children who were suffering from child sexual exploitation, child criminalization. So, and we made amazing films. And so from then, Para said, come join me on a Web3 journey. And that's what we did.
So your cause-driven heart preceded Web3.
Yeah. So before that, I worked in the public sector. Sorry, everyone. So 30 years in the public sector. I'm really old. You guys often talk about age, but I'm way, way past all of you. I'm not the millennium ones. I'm the Gen X.
Yeah, man. So you were around when Depeche Mode was still coming up, right?
Depeche Mode. Also, I can't believe you said that. Depeche Mode comes from Basildon in England.
Yeah.
And I come from Basildon in England. So there we go. And you never knew that at all. Never.
No, that's too funny. Okay, and so real quick, give us I know that Austin and myself and Jarrett are involved in all kinds of NFTs. I know that you and Jarrett are in Real Vision NFTs, but
Austin.
And I am too.
Yeah.
Come on, don't cut me out of here.
So spin around and tell us about the awesomeness on your wall, because I don't know if everyone understands that is a glorious wall of NFTdom. Right.
That's
there.
all it is NFTs, and NFTs here and NFTs here. If I spun it all around, NFTs, yeah. And I did them because nobody understood what the heck I talked about when I said NFTs.
Sure.
And literally, the first NFTs I bought were from Tuttle Tribe, from Miami. And they're about an education program for women. Michelle Abbs, amazing woman. And she helped me buy my first ones. I got really excited, really excited. And I bought 5 of them. And then somebody, I saw one that said, oh, I printed one of mine. And I was just like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I just started printing them. And then I bought not a lot of Not Your Bros. Yeah. So my signature one, which is not my bro, my pink and red lady.
Yes.
And then I bought a whole load, and then I had them all stolen. And I don't care; they're staying on my wall because they were mine.
So you got fish. So they're not in your wallet. You don't have any of them.
No. Well, I had to buy it back. I had to buy my one identity one back. I kind of did a deal with myself. I would buy that one back. But all the rest of the Not Your Bros, the Not Your Demons are, but the Not Your Bros, I refused to buy back because I was just like, I really bought. That's really the amazing project, amazing project out of Australia. It's just shit, really. When you do one stupid thing, and I don't say stupid in a really negative way about myself, but you just, I even double checked what I did once, and I was just like, oh heck. And they wiped them all in one go. I gave them permission to come into my wallet and take anything that was a Not Your Bro, and they were gone.
Oh my! And so were they just in your MetaMask?
Yeah, they were in my MetaMask. So, and a funny story about Real Vision. I guess we're all fans of Real Vision. Yeah. So I got a Real Vision one. And I now do that approach of buy, sell, and hodl. Not that I sell anything, actually, but 3 wallets. And I transferred from MetaMask. I got my Real Vision, transferred it into my ledger. And then I had to kind of do the verification. Yep. And you should never verify it on a ledger. So I paid to transfer it from MetaMask to Ledger. then I literally just had to transfer it back and pay another $11 to transfer it from my ledger into my MetaMask so that I could verify and get my verification RV collection holder. And I literally was just going to transfer it back tonight, and it's another $11. I'm like, I'm just going to wait for a while and then I'll transfer it.
Oh, man.
Anyway, there we go.
Interesting. Jarrett, you had a thought there?
No, I just wanted to know if she right-click saved all the images on our wall. I just want to be sure. I don't know how NFTs work, so I want to just know.
You did!
That's what I think she did. She right-click saved, put the JPEG in her wallet.
She said, doggone it, if they're going to steal my ish.
No. They were already in my wallet, and then I saved them and then sent them to the printer, to the printer's picture company, and then they stole them. And I'm like, that's it. They're mine forever.
Now, how do you guys, Austin, Jarrett, how do you guys store your NFTs?
Mine's just sitting on my MetaMask right now. I don't use a lot. Like, I don't use the particular account that MetaMask that it's sitting on. I don't use a lot, and so I'm keeping it there until I have enough things to really like fully like move over onto a ledger.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I have way too many on a MetaMask, and it's actually horrible. And don't follow. But I also. The Raoul Paul RV Collective is the first one I've minted in probably 6 or 7 months. No, wait, that's a lie. I minted one the other day before that. But like, I'm crazy about what I mint just because I know so many people who have had their stuff drained because they've signed a bad contract.
Yeah.
And the second I mint and it goes through and the contract is done, I unconnect. So when you go into MetaMask, you can have your connected sites. You need to keep that at 0. Zero. Every time you go on, you can sign a new contract. That's fine. But you want to keep that at 0 because in the event that any one of those connections is corrupted, you could be in trouble. I know that for a long time. And the other thing is I've never put any of mine up for sale because for a long time, there was this weird glitch between Rarible and OpenSea, where if you put it up to sell on OpenSea and then you took it down or something and it was like for 1 ETH and now it's worth 50 ETH, Rarible, you could have bought it. Like there was like these weird things. So I do need to take it off. If this were like sex ed, I'm totally into like abstination and like waiting forever, abstinence, because I just like don't like my MetaMask it doesn't really connect with anything really. Yeah.
I'm willing to bet Allison should feel a little more embarrassed because I'm willing to bet all these PowerPoints she does for people. I'm willing to bet PowerPoint number page 7 is like, by the way, here's MetaMask security. I mean, do you cover MetaMask in some of the onboarding?
No, we do now. And honestly, it's been such a journey because I have to say, in all my years in like public sector, I never touched IT. I was a people person. My first qualification was like youth and community. It was about how do we empower, when I say how do we empower young people, I was 21, so I was a young person. How do you empower young people and like take control of their life and everything? Yeah. And it is so like, and then I became the chief exec of the local authority, which was like really amazing, everything all the way up. I kind of love it because I kind of went from a kid in care too. So really deprived background, didn't have like foster home, children's home, and then got to be in charge of it already, which was pretty cool. But it is that bit of like, I never did IT. I used to have an IT department who came and sorted out my forgotten password. And now I'm like...
memorizing seed phrases and everything, you know?
Honestly, I was saying to somebody the other day, somebody was challenging me today of like, oh yeah, mass adoption, blah, 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 the typical stuff. And I was saying about the new like 43, 37 kind of approach that could really help to do the mass adoption. But no, so it's it has been a massive journey, like learning like that. And so I think if I can learn, anyone can learn.
Now, I'll tell you what I love about what you're doing. So I know Austin and Jarrett and I, and probably yourself when you're talking to your team, you can just be so geeked out about what's coming in. We're talking about 4337. We're talking about cool stuff. I'm talking about ISO 20022. We're getting nerded out. But like with what you're doing is what I consider frontline stuff. but you're doing it at scale. You're doing a lot of these appointments. If I follow you, if anyone, please follow Allison on Twitter. She's always very diligent about showing people. She's on a train. She's going to London. She's teaching these people this, that, or the other. You're doing the God's work of onboarding, right? What I love about that is you have a pulse on the actual average person's questions, fears, concerns. And a lot of us just live in the world all day long. We start to lose touch with that. And so my question to you is like, are there questions that you get that you're still surprised you get? Like that's so rudimentary. Like, can you give us an example of like questions you get in these audiences where you're like, I can't believe they don't know this?
Yes, but before I say that, can I just say, I'm going to take it as a compliment that you just said I'm being nerded out, really.
I am, yeah. That's a total compliment. It's a total compliment.
That's like me saying to you guys, you're like the Banklers, you're better than the Banklers. I'm taking that as like, that's it, guys. I've been called nerded out on like Web3. I think for me, there's the real bit of, I get really fed up, to be honest, especially about people I know or their partners mainly. And I'm going to say men in that sense. They often say, oh, crypto's gone down, Alison. Oh, have you lost? Like, oh, it's all going to crash, Alison.
Oh my gosh.
Think, really? even if you think that, just have a bit of respect for somebody who's moving into a new world. I mean, when you think of all the young people who are living in this world, and I'm going to say Jarrett interviewed this young guy the other day who was like saying all this amazing stuff he's doing, and it's just like, you just think, well, if they're going to say that to me,
yes,
what kind of messages are they giving to young people who, to be honest, live in a totally different world to what we live in? Yes. And I just think for me, that's the bit that frustrates me and makes me really, sometimes it makes me a bit angry, especially all the people who are in power in England generally are going to be in their 40s to 60s, guys, to be really honest. And
most
I just
government, most governments these days. That's what it's
our
like.
responsibility to do something different. It's our responsibility to say, how we did it in our life is no longer the game rules.
Oh yeah.
We need to do it differently. So I get really fed up when people just always tell me crypto is going to crash. Did you know, like, oh, did you know FTX happened? Or, oh, have you lost all your money, Alison? All of that stuff. And then they say, like, what the heck's an NFT? Like, why would anyone want a digital asset? A digital asset? Why? Why? And why would anybody want to buy a piece of clothing in the metaverse?
Yeah. You're right. And I don't know if you know this, but like going around the screens here, I'm in Central Florida in the United States in the Southeast. We've got Austin, who works in the Canadian government in Canada. We've got you, with your background in the UK. And now we've got Jarrett down in Bogota. This is Web3, right? And all of us have had, and this is my point, not only we're unified in our optimistic vision, but we're also unified because we all put up with that crap every day.
Oh, absolutely. I was just thinking that conversation sounds like a conversation I've had with my dad before. At least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, man. Jarrett, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm in a group chat for football for the English Premier League, and we were just talking about Liverpool have recently beat Manchester United, which is ridiculous. They beat them 7-0, and then Liverpool lost their next game 1-0 to one of the worst teams in England. So you're just kind of like, that's a head scratcher. And in the debauchery of that in the chat, somebody said, "Oh, did you see what happened to that bank in California? Looks like crypto is going down. I hope no one's invested." And first of all, I was like, the direct tie to crypto is tough. Like, that's a really tough tie. It's crazy that a TradFi bank goes down and it was crypto's fault. And then it went on and they were just like, oh yeah, if you're invested in that, it's not going anywhere. And everyone big piled in and was like, it's not going anywhere. It's trash. Like, you shouldn't do that. Now, I'm adding my own language here. But one of the things that came out of this, and Grant and I have another show called Friday Finances, and I think crypto has really helped me on my, like, understanding Bitcoin really helped me on my, like, economic journey and financial literacy journey. But a lot of them kept saying, no, we're invested in real estate. We don't invest in Bitcoin just because they pay their mortgage. And I was just like, that's not how that works. So I think that maybe this is a change in the conversation, but it seems to me that, like, crypto, the reason why I think crypto makes people really uncomfortable is, one, it's the unknown, but two, you have to talk about value. and you have to talk about money, and you have to talk about things that most people don't want to talk about, or they don't feel confident to talk about. So people get really uneasy really quick, especially when it comes to Bitcoin for some reason. And the narratives around Bitcoin are just absolutely, there's 3 or 4 of them, and they're going to rattle them off. And, but I love what you said, Allison, because it's like, look, say I was into, I'm trying to think of something that's like going extinct. Okay. I'm into skiing, right? Skiing's actually going extinct because like the snow it's going, right?
Oh, climate change. Okay. Got it.
Oh yeah. The climate crisis then, right? So,
All right.
so if my friend's really into skiing and he's like telling me about his skiing, I'm not gonna be like, dude, that sucks. It's ending.
Yeah.
Like it's going
Yeah.
to zero. It's going to zero, bro. Why are you still investing? It's like, no, if you derive happiness from that, if you have a community, if it's not going to physically harm you, why are people so against it?
Yeah.
And I've never actually thought of it until the way, Allison, you just kind of put it, but it's like, if someone's really into something, and it sounds like the men of your partners are just absolutely peaches, so that's fun. But it really is like, why are you raining on my parade? And I'd never thought of it that way, but like, I work in crypto. This is what I do when I'm not in my 9 to 5. This is my 5 to 9, you could say. And then so when I have friends tell me that it's crazy and it's all going to go to zero, and they're not looking at the bank, and they're not seeing that when Silicon Valley goes under, it's at 19.5, and now Bitcoin's almost at 26,000. I'm like, you're missing the train, and that's fine, but don't yell at me for being on a train that I choose to be on. So anyways, I feels like we've all felt that way.
But it is so important what you've said, because it's also, and I know you can say it's about crypto, but it's about human relations, isn't it? That's the bit. Like, and it is some of like what you guys talk about. It's just like, we've got to open the world. And we probably, as younger people, were like really angry at parents because they were like, well, that's the old style when we're doing it our way. And for some reason, people our age seem to have applied the same. Everything that we kind of hated around parents saying, oh, why do you want to call someone? Go and talk to them. Because I am that old, really. But it's just like, literally, I just think it's so dismissive. Young people grow up in a world where they play games, they buy things in the metaverse all the time, and everyone is dismissing them. Somebody asked me to come to an event in Germany in the summer, and they said it's all about showing people practical applications. And I talked about young people and about how all the young people who play games actually are developing social skills, are developing collaboration, teamwork, intuition, initiative, and all of those are hugely important skills, which in fact the market has said, the economy has said for years that people don't have. So now we've got them, and they're suddenly saying, no, we want them to have academic qualifications. So it's a really dismissive approach when you dismiss something that other people are doing and are passionate about, whether it's their job or their life.
Austin, what's your thought there?
Well, I first wanted to ask you to bring Brian Naughton's comment up here because I think that's really, really interesting, because I don't think I have that ability. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry. I didn't get notified. Here we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think that's totally right. I have a very weird, like, my academic journey is kind of strange. I'm completing my master's, my thesis at the moment, but I'm also working full time, and I graduated at a weird time. And so I ended up going back to do my master's because everyone seemed to want a master's degree, but they were also always stretched for workers. But I thought Brian Naughton's comment was very interesting, saying that the average age of the U.S. Senate is 64 years old. And I mean, if that's not definitive of you're kind of looking of how we see the direction of crypto in the US right now, and this whole discussion of basically being dismissive of what younger generations are interested in. I don't know what's a better show of that than just that number, because I think there's a really telling factor in that number right there.
Well, and we call Web3, and Allison may not know this about me. I have a web design company. I've been doing web design in a variety of ways since like 2002, 2003, back when we were hand coding stuff, right? And we called, when social media came out, we called that Web 3.0. Web 1.0 was Netscape and like getting an AOL disk in the mail. Web 2.0 was when we got search engines, and Web 3.0 was when we were on social media. And we had said that for a long time. Now, I was resistant of calling crypto Web3 for a long time, but I have adopted that now for what you're talking about, Allison, and that's this. The things we're saying, the things you just said about Web3, we said about the internet. It's going to flatten the world, and it did. It did in a lot of ways. Paradigmatically, where we were at, it did. We stopped reading, we stopped having to buy all the newspapers to figure out what was going on in the world. Now we're stiff-arming and pushing away too much information to just focus on what we want. We had to go hunt for info. Now we've got too much. And so it did make a lot of changes. But the thing I think Web3 is attempting to do at the architectural level, like DAOs, is we're really fighting hard and having a hard debate about centralization, re-centralization, and decentralization. And what I think we're trying to do is learn from the launch of the internet how to be more resilient in our human connection. I mean, look at us. This right here, like if you think about these young people and they're playing Call of Duty or some Fortnite game, they're talking to people all over the world and have been for for nearly a decade. And right now, these relationships right here, I feel closer to than some of my IRL friends because of this layer. We have so much in common. We have insider lingo and we have a tribe. Jarrett, what's your thought there?
Yeah, I want to add something on that, Grant. I think you're totally right, and you need to write a blog entry or do a podcast on what you just said, because I think you're totally right. And when I think back on the internet, being someone who was raised in the 90s on the internet, it was like, don't talk to people on the internet. You know, don't do that. They're going to scam you.
Don't get in vans and don't talk to people on the internet.
Okay,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
then you fast forward to being an adult, and then it's like, oh, if you can work from home, that's a real flex. Oh, you should get on LinkedIn and meet people. Yeah. Oh, you want to date? You better get on Tinder. Oh, you want to do your banking? You better do it on the internet. Oh, you want to talk to your doctor, but you're too sick to go out because it's COVID? Just fire that person up on the screen. So I want to ask Allison if she thinks that there's going to be a flip like that with crypto, where it's like, don't touch crypto, you're going to get scammed. Don't touch Web3, you're going to get scammed. And when you think the moment will happen where the parents, I'm just using that as basically the older you get, I just have a theory that like you just become less curious. And so I'm going to say the less curious, when the less curious stop telling the curious to basically stop playing on crypto and Web3 and start playing, when do you think that will happen? Because I'm now envisioning a moment in which parents are going to be like, oh yeah, how's crypto going? Oh yeah, you don't have to get your degree, but how's crypto going? You know, are you trading that well? Did you create
with
your NFT?
sincere interest?
Yeah. Just like the way parents now are telling their and parents are telling their kids now. Oh, like because when I was growing up, my parents didn't let me play video games, and I say this all the time. And like in 20 years, when I say that, you know, somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, Grandpa's crazy. He couldn't even play video games." But like, I couldn't, right? But now in the future, that's like not being able to talk to their humans. And even now, parents are like, "Oh, my kid is really good at video games. I'm gonna like invest. We're gonna get him the best stuff because I just saw this kid on ESPN win $3 million, and my son's already top 100 in America. Why would I not?" So, at what point do you think we get there? And it's probably not going to be defined by a time, like not 2031 December, but like what has to happen in order for the less curious to tell the curious, this playground is worth playing in?
That's a good question.
Well, I think it is when it is an aha moment that's needed, and that will be different for everybody, really. Last week I was talking to a business breakfast, and I was there to talk about Web3 and the metaverse, and actually the bit when I was speaking, less was the aha moment, and that's not to dismiss what I said, because obviously it was really important. But when they went home, those business people, and they actually spoke to their young people, and the feedback I got was quite phenomenal, really, because they said, "Oh my God, we went home and we talked about the metaverse, and our kids told us they were hanging out in a jacuzzi in the metaverse." That they were going, and literally they had that aha moment that this crazy woman who was standing on the stage, who is older than them, they then went home and talked to their kids. Yeah. And I think it's that, Eben, it's all of us. It's all of us like seeping in. Yeah. I mean, and actually, and I will say this in terms of like Jarrett, you're like more than blockchain. The reason that I think that's so great is because it's small bits, and people like small bits,
Yeah.
when they can go out, but it's diverse. So you introduced, like, yes, the Gen Z guy, who was amazing, and I'm hoping to get him to come on our platform too. But you also talked to the, I'm going to say college principal, it probably wasn't the right term, but you talked to him, and he introduced how you actually can use crypto to pay for your studies.
It's a good
So
episode.
it's the more and more we talk about the difference. So I often talk about, actually, rather than self-sovereign, because people won't really, I'm going to say that doesn't really make too much sense. It's maybe that's that nerdy bit. But when you say you could have your wallet, and you could have your, and in England we call it our NHS, so our National Health Service health record,
Mm-hmm.
and you carry it around with you. So I come to, my daughter, who's asthmatic, she went to San Francisco for a year studying, and was constantly saying I had to get her a prescription and send it so she could get it. Well, if she had her medical record, she wouldn't have to pay an expensive fee of going to see a doctor, being assessed.
Yeah.
She could go into any pharmacy and say, I need a blue inhaler.
Yeah.
And they would fill that prescription, and she wouldn't actually have to disclose all of her history. That's the bit I also think people don't understand. With the concept of having their identity held, it's the same as if I go hire a car. I don't have to don't have to give people my address and my age, and if I've ever been disqualified, or if I've ever had any issues.
DUI.
I only have to tell them I have a driving license, and it's valid, and it doesn't breach any of their rules. And it's X. Do you meet X? Yes, I meet X. And it's such an empowering tool. So I think it's about different audiences, and we have to help people see that differently.
And if I may on that, I love that example, the NHS example, and identity in general. You're talking about zero proof or zero knowledge proofs. And I think that that's absolutely powerful. Polygon just made some huge strides in that. But there's a lot of cross-chain stuff going on. And this comment from Ken, and Ken, comment on this. I believe Zbyte is also creating, Ken works for Zbyte, and I believe they're creating massive architecture for ZK proof knowledge, like you're talking about. I think that will be ultimately the largest impact. But here's my sadness with this. We're in a heyday right now where what we're talking about is both like kind of rejected, but also like super cutting edge. And we get the honor of introducing these concepts and getting in these arguments even, and I mean honor, because by the time what you're talking about, Allison, happens, I believe most of crypto's beautiful technology will be absorbed into its industries, and they won't even notice it. They'll notice the benefit, but they won't hear the lingo. And at that moment, it's almost like, what are we supposed to do as Johnny Appleseed? I don't know if you have that story in the UK, but Johnny Appleseed was a character who just was going around. It was just a character that would go around and sow apple trees everywhere. He was kind of like, sowing the seed, if you will. We won't even need to do that because the tech will be spread out into its industries, and we won't have anything to talk about. Like, no one's going around doing PowerPoints on the internet anymore. Here's an Ethernet plug, and this is what an AOL disk was like. Like, no one's doing that. So I think we're in a unique golden era that I think we should all pause to enjoy, that we get the honor to be those introducing others to this, because eventually they won't even see it because it'll be integrated. Go ahead, Jarrett.
Yeah, Grant, I'm glad you say that, because I feel like this is how I'm a huge hip hop head, and I feel like this is how hip hop was for me in the 90s. I cried to my mother when I was 9 years old in Sam Goody, which is a CD store. So she would buy me my first tape, which was Coolio Gangster's Paradise. Yes. And she said she didn't want to do it because it had an explicit advisory. And I said, no, don't worry about that. That doesn't mean anything. That meant a lot. I learned a lot as a 9-year-old. But the point is, at that point, hip hop was something that was still kind of underground. And yeah, they sold the CDs, but like, a lot of like culture didn't really accept it. It was still very anti-culture. It was something that like, that's cool, but you do you. Now every single Super Bowl in America is hip hop. Like it's not
Yeah,
country. It's not
that's right.
pop. It's basically just hip hop. And those are the ones that kind of sell out. Or
Yeah.
it's reggaeton, which is an extension of hip hop from the Southern
Mhm.
neighbors. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like, but when you look back and you look at like
Mhm.
NWA and you look at Public Enemy and you look at Tribe Called Quest and you look at when Nas and Jay-Z were like 18, 19-year-old coming up in New York and having beef, that was a golden era of hip hop with Biggie Smalls and Tupac.
Yeah.
Now it's a completely different thing. And now it's so infused that you don't even think it's hip hop. You just say that's music. You know, you don't even say
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, can you turn your music down? Not can you turn down that stupid rap? So there is a moment where I'm
Yeah.
glad that you called that out, which is like an honor for me to have grown up in that time. And like I was on the end of it, to be fair, but you know, hip hop is
Yeah.
totally different now. And so to
Yeah.
think about if crypto or Web3 takes that journey, it's
Yeah.
super exciting that we're here today,
Yeah.
that the four of us are here. Ken Cato's here, Brian's here, George Pate is here, other people who are in the comments, Sarah, your colleague, because even in 5 years, I mean, hip hop took a long time because we didn't have like CDs and then tapes and like, you know, now we have MP3s and so things go quick. And if we could, I actually want to take this and shift because I want to ask your opinion because you're across the ocean here, you're across the Atlantic. What was the reception of what happened with Silvergate and Silicon Valley on your side? Because for us over here, I mean, the United States is absolutely no newbie to not doing banking well and screwing over people. So I kind of want to know what you guys are feeling over there as far as the shock waves of what that looks like.
Well, I think it's two things. I think it's what you also said earlier, though, that the minute something happens negative, everyone jumps on, oh, that's all because of crypto. Yeah. So in a sense, that's what's been some of the headlines of this is what that's about. And therefore, when you listen to the radio or the TV, you kind of know that there's a lot less sincerity in what they're saying because they're actually saying it's because of this. I think one of the things, though, is because the current like governing party feel very much around entrepreneurship and really driving the growth. I think to see them come in and say we are going to do everything to back this or to find a way to buy the bank. And it is because of the entrepreneur. I mean, I'm going to say that word. They're going to say because of business, because of small and medium-sized business. I use that word entrepreneurship. I'm sure they wouldn't. But I think that, so I think it's both mixed though, because again, the taxpayers would also say, why should we be bailing out? Why, why should we bail out any bank? And therefore, why should we bail out any business that has kind of gone down that route? Yeah. So I would imagine it's some of the same feeling that's being expressed in many places. And here very much of the negativity around crypto and then the negativity about why should taxpayers' money bail out. I mean, obviously we did that big time. And all of those banks in the past made billions for the shareholders after we'd bailed them out. And even though they would have paid back the taxpayer, that still doesn't really feel right for the taxpayer because we should have got so much more because we allowed them to be bailed out. So I think it doesn't help the growth of the Web3 and if we say the crypto part of the Web3, it doesn't help that having anything that's falling apart at the moment that has a lot to do with the crypto world.
Yeah. And there's so many layers there of not ignorance, but there's a lot of layers to explain to the uninformed about, well, first off, you have to make the argument that this wasn't a crypto thing. This was a Silicon Valley Y Combinator thing, you know, and then this was like the buying of bonds in the Fed, and you got to know what that means, you know, and so there's all these layers. And then you got to talk about VC money, and it's like, I don't think I don't think this means what you think it means, you know, like,
and it's really hard, isn't it? I mean, I have a niece who works really hard in health and safety, and she's just been made redundant. So you then show her that's been made redundant, and then this happens, and then she hears taxpayers or how it's about how it's heard, isn't it? Because often the bit that I think we collectively are bad at is telling the whole story. The reason we want to
Yes.
bail this bank out is that actually it's like 1,000 people's jobs, or it's 10,000 people's jobs. And if we keep 10,000 people in employment, then we will keep the economy kind of go. But we don't hear that bit.
That's right.
You've got to go search that out, as you said. So, and the average person isn't doing that. They're just reading what's put in front of them.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they're getting quite pissed about it, really. And
Sure.
then that's a negativity that isn't helpful.
Oh yeah. But Allison, you and I were around at least for 2008. Austin, you were still
I was still small. I was about finishing elementary school at that time. So
yeah. And Jarrett, what were you up to?
I was I was in college.
Yeah.
I like his
Yeah,
coffee.
Occupy Wall Street, bro. Occupy Wall Street.
Austin
no,
just
no,
left.
no.
Austin just left. He felt like he was getting ageism, and he's like, "I'm too young. I gotta go."
no, my
I'm an
internet is
underrepresented
being funky. I'll
That's
be
okay.
back in a sec.
Austin's got that Ethernet.
Well, and what people don't realize, we were marveling about this, Allison, and I do want to take this conversation back to MetaCampus because I have some really, I think, questions that I think the public will want to hear, but I'm super curious about. But I will say this, people remember Lehman Brothers, or the beginning, and we were talking about this, like, this took like a week to unfold. It took weeks, if not months, for the government to respond. This happened in a 48-hour period, and whether or not you approve or disapprove of the actions of the U.S. government, the response was miraculously quick. And I think we avoided a much worse crisis. Now, I think we have the weeks coming and the day coming, and I think I just got a news feed that a Russian aircraft just hit a U.S. aircraft, so who knows what that means for the market? Like, I just got that while we were talking in the news feed. But my point is I think we have to marvel that something was learned from 2008, and the sheer volume of what happened then to now has shifted. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to ask a few quick questions about MetaCampus, if that's okay. Is that okay, Jarrett?
Yeah, let's definitely dive in.
So, like, I'm nerding out about your model that I'm totally curious about. You have your own token that's a stable coin?
No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't do that.
What's the Web3 B3 token? It's a peg to the dollar, right?
No, we don't. I'm going to say he's looking at the wrong website, but I'm not looking at that.
Is metacampus.ai not who you are?
Yeah, we are metacampus.ai. Okay.
Yeah. We have
okay. We did have some at the very beginning. Sorry, you've just made me. I need to kind of do some tidying up of our website.
Okay.
So one of the bits at the beginning is like that we were going to be education, all of what we talked about. We're going to be transformation, which is the kind of helping businesses transform and professionals. And we were going to bring a lot of Web3 companies to market. And in the bringing of the Web3 to market, that was about helping people who came through, who had a great idea, who wanted to say, I want to bring forward. So we would mentor them or help them bring that, or we might link them or use our contacts to connect them with other people who wanted to launch something or who wanted to invest.
I see.
Some of those were bringing tokens, yeah. But one of them particularly, and I know that you asked me once about this before, is called I Am On Chain. And that was particularly around modern day slavery. So I know that this is all about kind of, and for some people it's like, this is a crypto show, this is all of that.
No,
But so much of what we do is around that. And I Am On Chain. So for instance, we all invested in I Am On Chain. So it could buy 10,000 ETH addresses called I Am 0 to I Am 10,000 on the very purpose of trying to challenge the concept of being a number, to say, actually, like I bought my daughter I Am 2000 because she was born in 2000. And so, but I Am 2000.eth. And so that's celebration, because when people are in modern, like slavery, whether that's child sex exploitation, whether that's criminalization, any of that, forced labor, actually they're often given a number in a very negative way. And we were trying to turn that around to say, actually, the number will free you from chains, because if you have a .eth address, and therefore you can use that to hold all your data, all your personal data, all your kind of, so somebody couldn't therefore carry you across the border because you would have that information. So there were lots. So that's so some of that is linked to that. So one of the things that we do is say that any company that comes to us who says they want to work with us, they've got to have a social value. So I Am On Chain is particularly, we're linked with the Mekong Club, and they are all about challenging modern day slavery. And so they kind of invest 30% of their work into that, or their of their earnings. And then we also had another one called Dustbusters, and that at the moment become more tricky because the whole issue of gas prices. Our concept was lots of people have NFTs that are seemed as dust, a bit like, you know, when you get token or you get change from different countries and you put it in the bin at the airport because it's no value to you. So we were trying to get people to take their no value NFTs that they've been given or they just picked up for really low level, like dollars, and actually then train people as traders to actually trade those. And we were trying to take unemployed, and we partnered with somebody called Hondu Careers in the UK, who's very much around wanting to help young people get employment, to break that unemployment. So yeah, we do a lot of that.
So quick question on this. You guys received some early investment to get cruising, and your investor partners and whatnot are on the website. Were you part of those conversations originally for seed funding? So my question is this. So Austin and Jarrett and I, we're all working. We have multiple deals. We're trying to prepare for seed funding. Quick question for you. What was the dominant concept? Oh, let me ask this a different way. Did you use crypto and Web3 as part of your pitch?
There's two different pitches, really.
Okay. I want to hear this. Yeah.
So, because there are those, I mean, we started off very much about, it was all about tokens, which is, and people wanted a token. And we have a guy called David, who is a real economist and really helped with the whole tokenization theory. But then we found that people shifted away from that at a point. So it's about people wanted to invest, and they wanted to, for themselves, have a bit of a safety net of actually how were they going to get a return. So it's a bit like that. Yes, we invest cash, but we need to know that we have a potential of getting cash out. So I think it depends who you're talking to.
Sure.
So as to, and that's not, you have different messages for different people, but different people want to pick up on different angles, don't they? So some people will want to be, I'm really happy to invest fiat and I want fiat out. And others will say, I really love the concept of tokens. So what is it that you're offering? And in a sense, it's like any startup, you're constantly going through pivots, and we went through a lot of pivots. We spent a whole of like last year growing, pivoting. We got some solid, like Luma Labs are a solid funder of us in the Netherlands. They really helped us. But then it's kind of, you're getting different levels of interest from different people. And so they all want different things. And it's like, how do you meet everybody's needs? And even in the sense of, I thought you were going to ask me what is the kind of messages, and some of them loved the social value. Okay. And some just wanted the raw kind of, how are you going to help people go from here to here, and what's going to be the gain economically for them as individuals and for business.
Interesting. No, that's very educational, because we've been touching on this a lot. We've got a good buddy who was on my own show, Spark Office Hours, like a week and a half ago, Tristan Peters. He's been talking to us about the framing of venture capital. And we know that all of our visions, especially if you have a vision within Web3, all of our visions are pretty sizable. And I don't know, Allison, have you done entrepreneurial stuff before this? No, this is your first. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Para is, I'm going to say Para is the, I put us in three camps really. So Edu is the real, like creative, like got a vast kind of like profile in creative world.
Sure.
Edu, I mean, Para is the business. You talked about the UK, and in England, I would say like the wheeler and dealer. Yeah, that's the kind of entrepreneur. Like you can listen and go, I can make that work. I can help that. And so solid, of how actually what he does so good is listen to what your problem is, and then help you find a solution to your problem.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and that's
huge.
what's really important. And then I'm the kind of real social value person. I mean, I'm not saying I am. We're all a bit of that, but actually, and the leader and how to kind of bring people together and form that. So that works really well.
Oh yeah.
I've never done that before. I've worked in public sector, working in the government. I literally have worked in the government for like 32 years. So I've kind of
Okay, so I'm in year 2 and a bit of working in the government. So
yeah, man, keep the faith, Austin. Yeah, man. So
you got a long way to go. You got a long way to go.
You got 30 left, Austin.
I got 33 left till I get my pension, my full pension.
I get my pension this year.
Oh, yeah. That's a good thing, especially when you're in entrepreneurship. I know that I've been doing my own businesses off and on since 2001. I have never felt secure a day in my life except secure in my own abilities, which kind of has a paradoxical effect, meaning I looked at my businesses and thought, oh, well, this is doing really good and it's producing good money. And it's doing the thing we said it would do. It's making an impact. It's delivering X, Y, and Z. We're getting sales. But at any moment, it could collapse. That rarely causes me stress. So that's all context to my question.
Doesn't it cause you stress when you've got to pay people? When you've got a workforce to pay? I
have a border, from that regard, I have a borderline sociopathic tendency. I'm either doing this or I'm not. Like, I either can make that cut or I can't. But my question to you was this, because I do a lot of small business coaching or entrepreneur coaching. You guys have a lot of momentum. I've seen all of your posts. Your reputation is growing. You're doing such good work. Do you feel stable as a co-owner and founder? Regardless that we're talking Web3, just as an entrepreneur, how comfortable do you feel?
So all the team who work for us, I'm feeling very secure at this moment, guys. But for everyone else, but I think yes, we have become much more secure. But I think the world and the investment in Web3 has really taken a shake. And I think even 6 months ago, we would have said you could have seen so many more avenues open.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit. So yes, I wouldn't want anyone to say we're here, we're stable, we're going to kind of weather this.
Sure.
But it is about saying the volume of opportunities, or easier opportunities, has shrunk significantly, and therefore there is a lot more work that's needed to bring the people on board. Yeah.
And I think you're getting to a great point. And this was kind of my point I made earlier about the shift of when these technologies, and there's lots of layers to, we all know there's lots of layers to Web3. There's the underlying architectures, there's the sociological concepts of DAOs, and there's so many layers. But I think what you're getting at is not only a market force, I think it's a sociological force of, it's to me somewhat of evidence that it's harder and harder, like tokens. You were mentioning tokens like a year and a half ago. We could have fired up the Not Crypto Bros token a year and a half ago and people would have been about it. But now they're like, wait, I think that's actually signs of a maturity of the retail person going, wait, there is no value. There's very rarely a significant value in tokens. Talk to me about something else of value. I know that Austin is shaping some projections on a project we're working on right now. And we're realizing that we're pulling back from any of the crypto language and realizing we have to speak to a viable business model,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
mature business model that stands on its own without selling, hey, this is blockchain. You know, it's got to be its own thing. And these guys have done a lot of work at making sure it's its own thing.
And,
So
and
I
if
feel,
I could say something without hopefully offending lots of people there on that one, that I think one of the things I noticed when I came in, that there is so much innovation, so
Yes.
much creativity and energy, but a real lack of, I'm going to say business understanding, but just of solid leadership, management.
yes.
And I think that's where you really need the mixture. Yeah. And it's not about you need the mixture of Web 2 and Web 3 people, but you can't, you could have had before, as we all saw, innovators who could go convince people, get millions, and then drive something. But actually, when you're then going to start employing a big team of people,
Yep.
you need to manage people. You need to manage conflict. You need to manage the good times, the bad times. You need to help him. And what I feel that I have noticed is that, and that's not with us because we're all kind of quite old. The seasons, Pera, Eddie, and I are quite old and worked in different companies, but I found myself often talking to people who it was their first venture, and they just haven't really, they haven't had to deal with the grumpy employee. They haven't had to deal with all the different levels where you've had to terminate someone, when you've had to kind of do different things, when you've had to have conflict, when you've had to help a team learn to work together. You haven't had to do that. And if you don't, it kind of gets a little bit difficult. And I think that's the bit, if we could take all these fantastic like Web3 innovators and just give them a bit of that,
Yes.
I think that would even strengthen what they do. They do amazing things. Absolutely. We all do amazing things, but I think that would just strengthen it a little bit.
So you're hitting on something that's close to my heart. At my heart, I am a trainer and a teacher in my core. And I don't care if you're like, Grant, bricklaying, go. I would come up with a principle rubric and we would teach because I just adore this. And as I've done a lot of small business coaching, and we were involved, and I got Jarrett involved with the Wonderland time, the DAO explosion. And we were in this DAO explosion and we watched it crumble. And as I was deep in the Discords, I was deeply following the Twitter, and exactly what you're saying, the internal infighting. It was like this dev talked about this dev. They got angry. They did it in a public Discord. That tension, they didn't even think about the tension and the message that it sent to their Discord followers. And there was like a run on the Wonderland time. They were just selling their liquidity because it seemed unstable from the way that one of the founders and one of the devs started arguing. And then there was a bunch of other drama. All of this I'm watching as a person who's been in management off and on through years, and I'm going, we could have dealt with this in a closed room, in a simple way, and just handled this with a little bit of gray hairs and maturity, So I think you're right. I think that there was a major crash that has occurred outside of TradFi markets in the crypto markets, that was lack of experience alone. And I think right now, though, we're seeing a synthesis of those learnings very quickly. And I think the VCs who have stepped into crypto, maybe I'm wrong, they are investing. Like, you got VCs to invest in you guys because I think that they were realizing it consciously or unconsciously that we need more experience in these halls, if that makes sense. So in a fun report on not crypto news, Aussie's cat turned off his computer.
I just read that. His cat turned off his computer.
That's some Web 2 excuses, Aussie.
Nothing but love, Austin. Well, guys, it's coming up on the hour. Allison, I'm going to give you a quick second because what we love to do is shout outs at the end of the show. The people, the team, those people we love to shout out. So I'm going to start with Austin did appear. His cat has gone away. I'm going to start with Jarrett real quick, and then I'll go, and then Austin will go, and then we'll let you go last to give you a second to think about your shout out. So Jarrett, do you have a quick shout out?
My shout out today is for any tech entrepreneur, any startup, anyone that was affected by a TradFi bank going under when you thought it was okay to leave your cash there. My shout out is for you. And I feel horrible that that happened, because whenever you feel like you're safe and someone violates that safety, you
Oh
can't
my
go
gosh.
back. So these people were given trial by fire. I'm sure many of them now are going to be into crypto as far as a way to hold their economic energy. And so, yeah, my shout out is for them. I have a lot of empathy because that is super scary. One of the guys who's come on my pod, Jose Pichardo Eve, he's part of a startup. They had money there. And it's like, are we going to get payroll paid? Am I going to be able to put in my pension or my 401k? Like, what happens now? And it's not like it just happened and no one knows about it. The entire world knows about it, So it's like, hey, did you hear about that bank? Yeah, actually I did. It's affecting me,
Yeah.
So that's my shout out.
My shout out is not just to Allison, but to something specific. I think I heard you say, did I hear you say you went through the Foster program?
I did.
My shout out is to not Allison, the Web3 crypto person, but the Allison person who has worked a traditional course of life, built something of her life, because not everyone builds something coming out of foster programs. And someday off camera, maybe we could talk about some of our experiences, because I didn't go through the foster program. I had a family around, but I had some particular circumstances that deeply could have sent me another direction. So my shout out is specific to you going through obvious adversity, building not only a 30-year career, but then pivoting into technology and still making a social impact. That specific nuance is my shout out. Go ahead, Jarrett.
Yeah, I just want to say, Allison, like, that's so badass that you were in 32 years with the government and then just decided to jump ship and do entrepreneurial ventures. You literally have more, what's a good word for TV here? You have more gusto and curiosity. I was going to say
That was my
cojones.
word. That was the word I was going to use.
I was going to say huevos. But anyway, I think your Spanish, your Spanish amigos will enjoy that.
Yeah.
Then 99% of my friends who are in their mid-30s.
Correct.
Because they live in a world of fear, and you don't, and that's why we love to have you on today. So anyways,
Yeah.
I'll pass it to Aussie.
Austin.
Yeah, I don't have a good shout out. You guys always have great
Shout out your
shout outs.
cat. Shout out your cat.
Shout out my cat, who has decided to totally wreck my appearance on the podcast today.
All right.
He's decided that he didn't like computers today, and that turning off the internet and then turning off my computer were great ideas today. So
Allison, who is your shout out to, or what is your shout out to today on Not Crypto Bros?
Okay, can I have three?
Yes.
Really three. Okay, and I just thought I do want to give Sarah a shout out, because Sarah is from our team, but she's the legal governance, and she literally has all week listened to us doing the launch of our platform and all of our sessions, and she is the most diligent person. She's just like, so, and she's shown up here, so say hello. And so I want to say thank you, Sarah. I do want to give a shout out to you guys. Like, literally, you put up with me saying random things on your show. And as I always said to you, I am not a crypto expert. And now you probably definitely know I'm not a crypto expert, whatever you thought before. And also, I want to give a shout out to all the amazing women that make all these amazing projects. They are all female-led projects. They are all projects that are either here to help women take a position, get women into Web3, to help women in third world countries. They are all of it. So as they're here and they're on my wall, I want to give a shout out to them, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Allison, where can people follow you?
Oh, LinkedIn. I'm very easy, because I am a metaverse everywhere. On LinkedIn, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. I think that's about it.
All right, Jarrett, bring us home, brother.
You can follow us on a couple of platforms Allison just shouted out, on LinkedIn and Twitter if you want to reach out to message us about hopping on the show. And then we're on YouTube. We're on Grant's channel. We're on my channel, More Than Blockchain, Grant Sparks, and also Not Crypto Bros on YouTube. So we go live every
decentralized
Tuesday.
News. What is this?
What
we're
is
live
this?
on decentralized news right now.
Are you doing? Wait. But are you throwing our lives on decentralized news too?
Yeah. I throw them out to my audience.
All
Okay,
right.
and decentralized news.
And
And
decentralized
decentralized news.
I
Decentralized news.
also forgot I'm on YouTube, but under a metaverse and motorbikes. So you can
Motorbikes.
follow me on my motorbike trips around the world. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, well, we'll be sure to tag you in that in the YouTube. And we go live every Tuesday at 3:30 Eastern Time, US. So
Amazing.
we'll see everyone next time.
Thanks for being